watching her clench yet another rock from the tide. That was 12 years ago. What was she looking for? What if she stopped looking? Metaphors were easy then, not only the sky, but migrating everywhere. And now everyone is arrow, arrow, arrows. Everyone harpoons. And I am the big heart, aren't I? When my black dog was being put down, in her last second, I whispered, squirrel. So that's the poem that begins the collection, because it kind of was the beginning of the collection. It was like the first poem that made me think, okay, maybe I do have something to say still. A lot of poems in this first part of the collection are about like the early days of motherhood. I don't know how many of you out there are in those early days, suffering through those early days, those difficult early days. I am past them, thankfully. I now have a 12-year-old and a 14-year-old, so I'm in a different stage that's, some would say, equally challenging. But one of the things that I felt as an early, in my early motherhood, was this constant kind of low-grade judgment from other people. And one of the people that gave me that sense of low-grade judgment was my midwife. With my first birth, I had my baby in the hospital, and that was very rough. And so with the second one, I wanted to be like, oh, I'll go all natural and I'll have a midwife. And I thought that went really well. But anyways, I'll read you this poem. So this is called The Difficult Ones. The Difficult Ones. I've been having problems, so I made an appointment to return to Sinclair, the midwife. I needed her one more time to teach me, or my baby, to latch on. In the sunlit dream of her office, in the easy chair, an Afghan and a pillow propping my arm, Sinclair stood behind me, used her palm and this indulgent voice reserved for babies, and she got us latched. Between us, my baby swallowed silky mouthfuls at my breast. Latching was so easy with Sinclair. I had a vision in that plush chair. I'd be able to go it alone on the fussy evening feed tonight. I was planted now with the wisdom of the palm, the pinky, and Sinclair's voice in my head. How grateful, how tired I was when I thanked her shakily. I'll never forget you. Nor I you, said Sinclair. Her hands clapped onto the knees of her colorful scrubs as she added, you always remember the difficult ones. I forget almost everything else about her birth. How long I pushed. Was the water around me really accessible? Did I climb from the tub? Did I wash or sleep? If my stitches had broken, or I'd complained about how I'd been sewn up, that to me would be difficult. Had I sworn at her during the labor's transition from woman to animal? Okay. If they'd needed the big fish sieve to clean up my pool, I couldn't remember. Everything I'd been so sure I'd been before, affable, even gracious in my first trimester, smiling benignly when, with her fingers inside me, Sinclair had pushed at the wall between one part of me and another and suggested, maybe you need more fiber. I wanted to be carried back a minute to that warmer armchair. Sinclair had helped me then, unclipping my bra cup before transporting my fussing newborn with her tiny chafed pout onto the firebox of my breast and fixing us, the difficult ones, into place. Another section of this book is about my mom, who, as I said, loved the Attic Owl. And after she died, she was a writer too. She was a poet and a short story writer and a novelist. And after she died, I was made literary executor of her will. And I got her journals, and years and years and years of journals. And I haven't gone through them all. It's too painful to go through them all right now, but I went through a few of them, and I found some of her poems that hadn't been published. And in honor of this being the Attic Owl, I think I should read one of her poems. So I'm going to start with her poem, which is called Then. It's a found poem from Mummy's Journal. That's what it's called in my book. So Then, found poem, Mummy's Journal. I think someone has their mic on, maybe. Someone have their mic on? Or there's like some kind of echo when I'm reading. Is that there? Oh, that's better. Yeah, because I could hear myself reading, and you know how when you hear your own voice, you're just like, oh, that sounds awful. That's much better. Thank you. Okay, Then, which is a found poem, Mummy's Journal. Then the ducks would rise from the river. The sky would darken. The birds would stop singing. The smoke would come in at the windows. The cake would fall in the middle. The dog would be lost. The dishes would never get done. The grass would turn into wildflowers. The rocks would pile at the edge of the water. The crows would find him. It was a little bit haunting to find that in my mother's journal, as you can imagine. I've just started writing about my mother and her life, and one of the things that I remember her telling me about when I was, a 30-something-year-old, was that she had gone back to where she thought she had spent some time. She was adopted, she was an orphan, and where she thought she had spent some time, maybe when she was an orphan, I guess. And she had stopped at this house on the side of the road in Pugwash. And so I wrote a poem about it, and I kind of folded her own words into the poem. So I thought I would read that. It's called Wild Exile. So she was never sure if this was actually the house where she had spent time when she was 4, but it may have been. Wild Exile. She stops the car in the red dirt in front of a house that could be the house. Could be the doorknob, clothesline, craggy gray shingles where she spent her 3rd year. Nothing is different from her memory, but nothing is the same either. A picture of a house is not a real house. She walks down to the brook, which is where she left it. When she slides her feet into the cool, tawny water, she tries to put things back into place. But a mink darts under a tree root. Catfish wind themselves darkly upstream, and all the birds go silent, pretending to be leaves. Nothing here for her. Now the house, its hill, even her car huddle suddenly into shadow, a great cloud folding over a valley. But under her feet, the water has cleared, the stones bare as a cold winter floor. What's there to cry about? House, your floors were so cold. And the last poem that I'm going to read is a poem called The End, which kind of combines my mother with my daughter, which brings the book kind of full circle, because that's kind of what it's about, motherhood in all its forms, and how we enjoy it and also chafe against it. So this one's called The End. And of course, any of you who've been mothers or who are mothers, I mean, I don't think you can be a past tense mother. I think you just are a mother if you've had children. Even if you haven't had children, there's ways that you can mother different things. It doesn't have to be a child. But those of you who have been mothers to young children know that at the end of every child's story, it always ends with the end. And I wrote this after my mother had died. So The End. I've been saying it for years now on the last page of every story. The end, they sing as they toddle to bed. When she could no longer leave her bed, I gave my mother a ginkgo tree in a plastic bucket. I was thinking she might plant it. The papered leaves turned yellow and fell off suddenly one night. A Pollyanna principle is love with all you have, and the love will return. But my mother's face was silent and stainless as a sink. The glass of water at the bedside was full because she didn't drink. I closed the book. My second born is asking, is it the end? It hardly bothers me to look into her eyes, so like my mother's, and lie. Thank you so much for having me read here. It was really lovely.
Oh, thank you so much, Sarah. That was really lovely. I liked the poems about your mother. I liked them all, but I thought that was really interesting. It's a hard subject to write about. I think your daughter.
Yeah.
Yeah. I get you.
Sorry, I didn't mean to like everyone emotional.
Oh no. That's good. Isn't that what poetry is supposed to do, though? It's political, it's emotional. I always tell my students, like, that's one of the biggest compliments you can get as a writer is to make someone else feel like, maybe not exactly what you're feeling or understand it, but to share that with someone. Excellent. So next, we welcome back Nesrine Pejvac. We're so pleased, Nesrine, that you could join us for the launch of your third book, I think it is.
Fourth.
Right. Fourth. Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry. That's so good for you. You're so prolific. Nesrine was born in Tehran, Iran, and came to Canada in the 1980s, where she earned a computer programming diploma and began working in the IT field. Soon she moved to San Francisco and, while working there, obtained a certificate in software engineering. After 12 years in IT, she left the field to study psychology and then worked as a counselor and educator until 2013. Since then, she has been writing novels, articles, short stories, and poems. Her debut novel, Amity, was a finalist for British Columbia's 2016 Ethel Wilson Fiction Prize. Nesrine has also published Paradise of the Downcasts, a collection of short stories and essays inspired by her experiences in Canada, and Waiting, a collection of poems, both with McNally Robinson in 2018. And Luton Stars, her latest publication. Thank you so much, Nesrine.
Thank you for having me. I'm so pleased to meet you all. Well, my latest novel, Lointain Star. There you go. If you go to Wikipedia and search for Lointain Star, it's there. It is a sci-fi and surprised many of my friends and followers that, oh, from what you were doing, why did you do that? But if you read the book, it's no different than what I did before. Amity was all about the resource-rich country and what the developing country do to the developed do to developing to get what they please, and what happened to the people and how displaced we all become. Waiting, my book of poetry, is all about the same kind of thing, and short story is what I learned in Canada. This one is all about planet Earth and what we have brought upon ourselves and the way we are living. And in that story, because I wanted to be as true as possible, as close as possible to our science, so everything I did in there is what we have learned so far about our universe and science that we have. There is no bugged eye alien in there, no weird looking, scary looking. If we know that the whole universe is from the same material, and then if there is another planet somewhere and there is a civilization there, why they have to look like that? So they look like us. And they are working among us for years and years, and people don't even know because they look like us. So in this book, I have a group of humanitarian aid who are working in Africa. They are from everywhere: Scotland, Ireland, India, Turkey, Iran, everywhere you want to name it. Canada, our main character goes there from Canada. And she works with someone that she's the closest to and doesn't know he's an alien. As we all know, all the time rebels attack the humanitarian aid places and kidnap the girls, do all kind of wrong, and always the peacekeeping are there. They conflict at all times. So in one of these conflicts, they have to run away and they choose to go with the alien. Again, as I said, Loiten B, Planet B, is in Wikipedia and is 12 light years away from us. But the way they go to planet Loiten, which is a Dutch name, and Loiten, Willem Jacob Loiten existed. He's the one who found this star system. I have explained it all in the book. And how the 12 light years for these people going to that planet was only 2 years. Again, I explained it with the string theory and the wormhole, not going to science. Hello? Not with the, yeah, who was that? You unmute yourself. I don't hear you. So anyway, as I said, everything is close to what we have learned so far. From there, in a very interesting machinery, they go to a cave that is the base of alien on our planet. Well, what do they do to them? First, they have to be cleaned. They cannot take earth viruses and, corona, or similar to that corona, to their facilities. So they clean them all, and after that, they all have to go to the moon station, which is their next step from the moon to their planet. And where they are on the moon, that international space agencies don't see them, or other satellite out there don't see them, they are in the dark part of the moon. So in that, there are many orientations that they explain how they come to Earth, why they come to Earth, where else they go, and what if they want to take us or anybody wants to go with them, what would be waiting for them. So I just read 4 or 5 pages of this 330 book. By the way, I don't see any of you anymore. Am I still on, or?
Yes, you are. It's just, I think we put the focus on you while you speak.
Well, thank you. So in that part, when they go to the orientation room, one of the alien, will read for them, say hello and start. Hello again and welcome all. Many of you Earthling know me. I am Anga, Alistair's wife. We have been together for about 20 years. We have 2 children. And during all this time, I could only go to the moon station once. There, I gave birth to my boys and had a visit with my family. Then I returned to Earth. Why? First of all, our planet is too far away. So, if I had gone back to my home planet with my family, Alistair would not have had a chance to be with his own family, as they would have died before he could return to Earth. Therefore, I stayed with him on Earth until his own parents passed. After all, I really do love your beautiful, spectacular planet, and I have really enjoyed it here while it lasted. In fact, it is possible that if there is a mission to rebuild Earth, then we may come back here again. But at this time, we will be going to my home to raise our children there. She takes a deep breath and continues with the sweetest of smiles. You see, our species lives much longer than many other intelligent species, including Earthlings. So my family will still be alive when we return. Even before our advancement, our life expectancy was a couple of 100 years. Then, as some of you already know, we solved the riddle of the aging process by revitalizing and rebuilding the cells in every part of our body. Now we age, but much more slowly, and we are much healthier than your species. Today, some of us live over 1,000 years. So, I will be going to the moon station tonight with most of you, as I understand it. But I hear some are not sure yet. So let me tell you a bit about us. For one thing, we are quite family oriented, much more so than many Earthlings. As a matter of fact, our civilization is much older than yours, but by well over 1,000,000 years, just since the birth of our new civilization, which was led by the woman of our planet. Over this vast period of time, many things have changed, developed, and grown to such a superior level that, frankly, I cannot even compare what we have today with the chaotic mass that existed before world's revolution, just like your planet Earth today. At that time, we had many wars, aggressions, and unsustainable exploitation, which brought us to the brink of extinction. Again, similar to the situation here on Earth. With our very existence on the line, a wise, courageous, and well-formulated association led and organized by women launched a powerful and effective revolution. However, by that time we had lost many of our animals and ecosystems, not to mention the loss of many people. It took us over 100,000 years to rebuild the natural balance and devise a proper economic system that was perpetually sustainable so that nobody would ever want to change it again. We have not had war or conflicts now for hundreds of thousand years. We are all quite happy and thriving well, an accomplishment you can see for yourself if you come to live among us. When we find the, lost it. We long to disseminate the formula of our success to as many others as we can. So for the past few 100,000 years, we have sought out planets such as yours, undergoing critical stress. When we find one, we gather endangered species of animals and plants, as well as prospective activists, scientists, environmentalists, and whomever else would be helpful in rebuilding the planet later. A person yells out, "Whoa, when you take all our scientists, who is going to work for our planet?" She smiles. On the whole, you're just not listening to your scientists. And as a result, you're unable to stop the aggression or rein in the excesses of your ill-chosen politician. When Earth needs to be rebuilt, you will need these people. We are cultivating their talents, and they will become much more skilled and capable when it is time to return to Earth to establish an effective system of governance for all. This process works. It works well for us and for other worlds, and we want your planet to enjoy these benefits as well. You don't want what you have now, do you? What is that? What if the pariah class of robber barons that is presently dominating your economic system, bunkers down underground, protected by their private armies, wait out the extinction collapse, disaster above, and then re-emerge as the only human survivor just to reestablish their destructive practice again? Everyone is quiet. That one can hear a pin drop. So she continues. Let me add, we are not taking all your scientists, only those who believe they cannot work effectively here anymore. The same goes with other noble people of yours, such as many of you in this room. So the invitation to join us is there, but as always, it is your choice. I can go on for another 5-6 page, but you still don't get the whole thing that what they are doing there. What is happening there? They will go 2 years on the planet. In that 2 years, beside all those treatment on them, so they can live longer and can endure the trouble in the space. As you know, as soon as we go to a space, there is no gravity, and our bones and bone density, all is gone. We will get sick and die. So they work on them and make them like themselves. Of course, they cannot, Earthling cannot live as long as they have lived, because it is not thousands of years have changed, and they have changed. So for Earthling, maybe a few hundred more years for them. So to be able to go to their planet and come back to rebuild the Earth. I made love story too, not just because if you make a love story in your book, make it more attractive. No, because I just wanted to show how a human being, most important, such as women, have to be treated. How important is our being on this planet or any other planet? If we are not there, there is no other generation or any moving forward, nothing. So I just wanted to establish that. So I made a very hot love story in there as well, just to show this is the way you treat a woman and how they treat a woman. Above all, as you all see that from dawn of our civilization, from the time of Persian Empire or Alexander the Great, we had war, we had famine, we had destruction, and all run by man. Did we ever had emperor as woman to do what the men are doing right now? There is no personal grudges or disrespect for any man, because I know many wonderful ones. But unfortunately, the ones who are in politics, they are really bringing the earth to the brink of extinction. So I made that planet, had a revolution run by women. And the whole financial system, as we know and we think is vital to our survival, I eliminated completely. They had less resources than what we had, but I planned it in a way that the whole planet can live with that same resources and thrive all together. Not that a company from Denmark or America get up and go to a third world country, extract all they have, damage their land and their livelihood, and just that company be rich. The rest of the people of any country, America, have more homeless people, druggy people, anything you want to name it, than the rest of the world. And they keep saying we are the most successful country on the planet, which is completely wrong. So I developed a story that is totally opposite what we are doing. That's all.
That sounds fascinating, Nasreen. I can't wait to read it. Thank you so much.
I'll send it to you tonight, ebook. Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much.
You guys can go and read the review about it. My book is really for new generation of women. You don't shake it, you don't have home. That's it. And you don't take it seriously, your children don't have a home. And it's reality. Just search it. Go on Wikipedia, search on anything you want on our climate, on our industry. Look at our economy. Look at all the sickness we have. The whole planet is going wasted. So I thought there is other ways, and if you want to challenge me, my way is not good, I'm all here for you. Come and poke me.
Well, as long as we can get it done with a hot love story, I'm all in. So
they all after my alien. Do you have any of these? No, I don't. I just made it up.
Well, thank you so much, Nasreen. I enjoyed that.
You're welcome. Thank you.
So next we have Julie Ogugadet, and she is a fantasy and science fiction writer, and she lives right here in Moncton with her husband and 2 young daughters. In addition to writing, Julie is also passionate about being a dungeon master in more than one Dungeons and Dragons game and loves most things fantasy or sci-fi related. Rising Dawn is her debut novel. Welcome, Julie.
Thank you very much. I'm excited to be here. So so basically, this is my debut novel, Rising Dawn. I lucked out on my cover artist, so I was very fortunate. But yeah, I've always loved fantasy, and I didn't know it when I was younger, but I guess I've always wanted to be a writer because I always invented stories since I can remember, and even my parents say I used to babble to myself with my toys and make stories, even as a baby. So apparently I've always been creating stories in college. But today I'm going to read to you one section of the prologue, basically the first page of the book, just to kind of get you into the action and how it starts. And then I'm going to go and read a little bit of chapter 7, because it's essentially the entire chapter 7 was the first scene I ever wrote. And so it's very meaningful to me because it's what got this whole thing started. And it was essentially a story that I couldn't get out of my head, and I just had to write it down just to be able to sleep at night, because I kept seeing that scene over and over again in my head. So so I'll read that because it's kind of getting into the action, and essentially all you really need to know, because I kind of want to keep it a little bit of a mystery to kind of entice you. But essentially, the main characters that we're mostly going to see is Arrow, and for short, his nickname is either Ro or Roro. So if I'm saying those names, it's all the same character. So he's a teenage boy, and he's ended up in this fantasy world. So he is from our world, if you want, but he ends up in this fantasy world, and he has a guide with him, Suprel. And the kind of twist here is that his mother has also tagged along. So essentially, we have Arrow, his mom, and his guide, Suprel. And basically, chapter 7 kind of goes with the mom's point of view for the first time. We see her point of view for the first time, because up to that point, she had kind of just been an observer. So I'll start with the prologue, and let's get to it. Pain, death, destruction. So close, must find. Can't find. Too much. Be quiet, be quiet, be quiet. The young woman kept muttering to herself as she paced in her small hovel. While she paced, she instinctively avoided the corner of her tiny bed that stuck out into the living area, as well as the overturned chair and the multitude of things she had collected over the years. Plants, valuable objects, and just plain trash. There was spoiled food on the table that had simply been forgotten. Flies buzzed about the food and other soiled areas of her dwelling. It was raining out. Water dripped onto the floor from a hole in the roof, with a consistent plip-plop sound. The woman's dirty hands kept lightly tapping her forehead as she mumbled. Her face had streaks of dirt, and her hair was matted and oily. Her clothes were mismatched, an assortment of strange rags somehow patched together. She hadn't washed in a long time. She stopped pacing and sat on her bed, rocking herself, looking far into the distance. The crazy witch, they called her, but they didn't understand. It was coming. And now we'll skip over to chapter 7. So a little section before the chapter starts here, as we see the mother's point of view for the first time. She watched the Golden Brigade drag Roro and Suprel away. They were both yelling. The fear on Roro's face brought tears to her eyes. She wanted to run to him, comfort him, tell him that everything was going to be okay. But she turned away. She closed her eyes and emptied her thoughts as the silence filled her. She forgot about the mother and reached deep to find the woman she had once been. She opened her eyes, all doubts gone. She tied her hair back. They had no clue what a mistake they had made. She grinned in anticipation. The gates opened. The thundering cacophony of the crowd invaded the tunnels, amplifying as it echoed down. A procession of criminals were forced out of the gates. They kicked up dust as they were dragged out. She, however, did not need to be dragged and walked confidently out of the doors, head held high. She was immediately hit with a wave of heat as she entered. It was like being in a furnace. The sun was high on its zenith, so it took her eyes a moment to readjust. She saw the arena in all its glory. She had never been inside it as a participant before. She appreciated the imposing and intimidating nature of the structure. The archway they entered was made of coal. It was black and altered from being porous to being smooth. Her nose wrinkled at the stench of her fellow prisoners, mixed with the dry dust in the air. The path they were using was wide enough to fit 5 men across. It went on a straight line for about 150 feet to the other side of the arena, the blood-red color of the stones glistening in the sunlight. The red made a stark contrast to the fine white sand that covered the remainder of the arena floor, and the marble pillars spread throughout. It was like a cut in the center of the circular ring. There were 10 pillars in total, symmetrically placed to either side of the path. 3 on each side of the path and 2 on each side closer to the walls, lined up perfectly between the gaps of the first 3. The marble columns were polished and smooth, and the sun reflected off the pure white. Instead of a traditional cylinder, the column seemed to be made of 2 smooth tendrils that had risen from the earth and intertwined itself as it reached up. On top of each of these twisted columns, the tendrils were spread out into a small platform, and they formed twisted bridges as they connected to each other. The walls surrounding them were mirrors that curved inward, and every 10 feet or so there were huge dragon ribs that followed the curvature of the wall perfectly. The ends of the ribs were pointed and 50 feet above. It gave the distinct impression of being in the maw of some great beast, on the verge of being engulfed. On the opposite end of the path, there was another archway, made of pure diamond this time. Above this archway sat a brightly decorated marble booth, empty. There were several thin curtains in a variety of colors, lightly flowing in the breeze. 3 comfortable sofa-like chairs were placed with care, complete with gold filigree and multicolored pillows. As all the prisoners were marched out, the roar of the crowd resonated in a chorus of jeers and boos. The mirrored walls made it impossible to see them, but there was no question. It was a full house today. The crowd fell silent as triumphant music echoed around them, a beautiful swell of lutes, lyres, flutes, and a resonating variety of percussions blended together and crescendoed as the emperor, wearing a colorful ceremonial mask, entered the aforementioned booth with a host of guards. There were 2 young teens seated in the 2 remaining chairs. They were both adorned in impressive amounts of golden jewelry. The emperor raised a hand and the music stopped. With a voice that reverberated throughout the structure, the emperor addressed the crowd. "Welcome to the arena!" The crowd went wild, then silent again, as the emperor continued, this time addressing the prisoners. "You are charged with heinous crimes and have chosen to forgo a trial in favor of earning your freedom. The rules of the arena are simple. Survive and leave by the Diamond Gate. Then you are free, but..." The emperor paused dramatically for effect. A procession of champions entered the arena from the Diamond Gate. There were 4 brutish men and 6 fully armored soldiers who fanned out to both sides of the path, staying near that back wall. Closing the procession was a lean, muscled man. His hair was graying at the sides, and his eyes had a piercing intelligence behind them. He held his helm in his arms as he acknowledged the deafening cheers of the crowd. All the champions were armed and prepared for battle. The emperor continued once again as the crowd fell into a hush of excited murmurs. "There will be resistance. If anyone wishes to face a trial instead of these champions, this is your last chance to turn back." A few of the prisoners rushed forward, asking for a trial, overwhelmed with the display of might. They were escorted back to the cells. Once they left, a large man entered, his massive muscles bulging from the weight of the weapons he carried. He dropped the weapons in a clatter in the center of the path, and then left. The guards also exited, locking the door behind them. The emperor sat down, motioning to a nearby servant. With a great heave, they hit the gong twice. The woman took a deep breath as she observed the situation, seeing past her eyes and feeling with all her senses the arena around her. Her mind worked fast, knowing where and who would strike. A slight movement above, imperceptible to most, caught her eye, and she counted 6 hidden archers on the platforms above, positioned to take the prisoners down as soon as they moved. While the archers did their deadly work, the brutes would charge the survivors, trying to intimidate them to stay on the path, in the line of fire of the archers. If any were brave enough to leave the path, the brutes would overwhelm them with their ferocity. The soldiers were the last line of defense and would strike down any who were lucky enough to survive until the end, or who got too close to the gateway. The leader with the graying hair was the true secret weapon. She could tell by the way he moved and scanned them that he would be the hardest opponent to face. In the couple of seconds it took her to ascertain the situation, the other prisoners snapped out of their stupor and ran for the weapons. She hid behind the closest column as the bloodbath began. Arrows rained down on the helpless prisoners, and they fell one by one, never making it to the weapons. Those that were smart left the path as arrows started falling. Many were taken down by the brutes, but some managed to use the corpses of the fallen as cover and were able to retrieve some weapons. They tossed several weapons towards the others, knowing their chances of survival would be greater this way. She smiled as a greatsword was tossed just a couple feet from her. 2 of the brutes noticed her. They charged. She waited patiently for them to engage. The taller of the two had an almost imperceptible limp on his right side, probably a worn-out knee. The shorter one was breathing hard. She took a slight step back and to the right, towards the taller man. He swiped at her with his warhammer, narrowly missing her, and as she moved over half an inch, she kicked his right knee. With a sickening crack, his knee snapped. He hit the ground with a resonating thud behind her, his momentum rolling him several feet. She rolled smoothly towards the greatsword and lifted it in an arcing motion, meeting the shorter one's sword an inch from her face. She pushed him back. Surprised, he recovered quickly, his training kicking in. He struck high, low, and forward in quick succession. For a big guy, he was agile. She blocked each strike with ease. She retaliated with complex strikes, hitting side to side, up and down, relentlessly switching it up. The man could barely keep up. She gave him a second to breathe as she crouched down. She smiled and leapt up, holding the heavy blade one-handed. The gong rang twice, and Ro's heart sank. He wanted to look away, to close his eyes, but he couldn't. He had seen some pretty graphic movies and TV shows. Seeing it for real, as the arrows pierced eyes, throats, chests, legs, and arms with blood spattering out, it was surreal and nauseating. Ro tried to concentrate and find his mother, tears already well up in his eyes. Saprel spotted her first. There she is! She was standing on the sand, off the path. A huge sword had been flung in her direction. Ro wasn't even sure she could lift that. Two of the big brutes were charging for her. She wasn't even moving or trying to get out of the way. Saprel seemed hysterical. What is she doing? I don't know, Saprel. I think... Ro's final thoughts stayed silent as the biggest brute reached his mom. He held his breath, and suddenly the big man seemed to trip and fall, narrowly avoiding her. He couldn't believe her luck. It was going to run out, however, as the other man had reached her, swinging for her head. There was no way she could bring that heavy sword up in time to block that strike. Yet, amazingly, she did. She even pushed the man back. How in the... Saprel's shocked expression mirrored his own. Out of all the crazy things he had seen since getting here, this was by far the craziest. Ro tried to follow the fight, less worried and more confused than anything else. The blaze moved so quickly it was a blur. He saw her grin wickedly in a way he had never seen before. He shuddered. She leapt into the air, holding the huge blade one-handed. The crowd was on its feet. Saprel was pressed against the glass, wide-eyed and muttering, "That's impossible! How?" All Ro could think was who the hell was his mom? Then he noticed the archers drawing their bows and aiming in her direction. So yeah, that's all I'm giving you guys. But yeah, if ever you're interested, I do regular orders to have. So if you're local, you can probably get a signed copy from me, as I do local orders. But if you're not local, the easiest way is through Amazon because it's the cheapest for shipping. So I am on Amazon. So yeah, you can check that out. And I do have the ebook version as well, which it's always great instead of having. But yeah, so that's it.
Can I add something? Kyla? I forgot to do what you did. My book is, the bookstores are closed, and I'm not local like Julie to be able to do that. But on Amazon, ebooks are very cheap. It's not for you 5. I will send it to you 4. I will send a copy to all of you. Because now we are friends. But for the one who are watching it, is on Amazon, and if the stores open, all the store will have it. But at this moment, ebook is on Amazon, on my own website, and paperback again on Amazon. But they are $25. Imagine with shipping and stuff, it costs a lot. So yeah, I just had to add this. Sorry.
Oh no, not at all. And I've been posting everyone's links. So I posted your website link, Nasreen, and told them to buy your book there. Same with Judy. I put your link for Amazon. Sarah, I don't know if I have a book link, but I put the All Lit Up link there. And usually my book's on there too. So usually they always put a buy from your publisher.
Thank you.
And we have Ali, who also has a book. Ali Etarnishi was born in Morocco, North Africa. I love how you had to say that because it's a city, right? Then moved to Canada in 2007. He is now a motivational speaker, personal development coach, podcast host, and global peace leader. Ali's motto is live fully, love openly, and be yourself. He is using his time to inspire others and to help them live a meaningful life that is important to them. Ali wishes to live a legacy of connection and authenticity on this planet. Ali's first book is an inspirational and motivational memoir, Just a Cab Driver, My Journey from Behind the Wheel to Behind the Microphone, chronicles his journey to fulfill his passion and follow his calling. Filled with true life stories from behind the wheel in Moncton, New Brunswick, and from Ali's personal life, this wise book offers uplifting and original insight and practices to inspire and motivate each reader. Welcome, Ali.
Thank you very much, Kayla, for providing this platform for us to launch our book and to share our story. All right, where shall I start from? This is my book, Just a Cab Driver, From Behind the Wheel to Behind the Microphone. So, I'm going to read chapter number 10, Burn the Best Candle on Ordinary Days. Act now, and I mean right now. This book took me 3 years to finish. I procrastinated for too long. Just a Cab Driver should have been out long before now. You know what? It is nothing better than finishing this book right now on October 10, 2020 at 10:10 a.m. on my birthday, which make this birthday a gift to myself. Now I can celebrate all my hard work and this achievement. This year has been a blessing. I became an aspirational motivational speaker, as well as certified life coach, mentor, podcast of Ali Dose of Inspiration. And as of today, I am an author. I also began running a show in Arabic, Good Morning with Ali, where I broadcast Good Morning with Ali. I'm also a good father, a good husband, and all this in 2020 because I found my voice. But the best is yet to come. I will also be launching my online program, 5 Steps to Find Your Voice. So I want you to take that leap of faith and say, I am no longer waiting for a special occasion. I burn the best candle on ordinary days. I am no longer waiting for everyone to understand me. It is just not their task. I am no longer waiting for the time to be right. The time is always now. I am no longer waiting for the world to be at peace. I unleash my grasp and breathe peace in and out. I am no longer waiting for a calm moment. My heart can be still. I am no longer waiting to be recognized. I value myself and I recognize my achievement. I am no longer waiting for approval. I approve myself. I am no longer looking for and chasing happiness outside of myself. I can tap in and find it within me. I am no longer waiting to do something magical. Being awake and carrying my grain of sand is enough. But no matter what, don't wait, because time won't wait for you. Burn the best candle on ordinary days. I will read another chapter, which someone's opinion of you does not have to be your reality. That's by Les Brown. When I started Alibaba Cab, I started with a good intention and focused my attention on success. But I also wanted Alibaba Cab to change the way people look at cab driver. I wanted a clean cab with excellent customer service and to make a positive impression in general, but to also offer a warm, lasting memory to tourists, as a cab driver is the face of each city. A cab is often the first point of contact with a tourist, and it has to be good. You guys hear me good? Okay. I started Alibaba Cab for my community, to open people's eyes toward diversity, multiculturalism, and to educate my city about the difference, about diversity, about different culture. Alibaba Cab was certainly all about that. I had trivia questions and games for clients to play while in the cab as well. I didn't want the experience to be boring or normal like other cab rides. My philosophy was to get the client to enjoy themselves while they are in the cab. So much that they would call back for our business without giving them my business card. I wanted my smile to be my logo and my personality to be my business card. The uplifting experience each client felt riding with me would definitely make the ride a lasting memory, and you would share that experience with your friend and colleague. So I would be guaranteed some repeating business, and all of that worked. People called back and had fun. Sometimes they called and I told them the wait time would be more than an hour. And they said they didn't even care because they want the service. They want to have fun. They want the trivia question. They just wanted to stay in the cab and drive and sing and answer my trivia question. Occasionally, I got a few bad apples that pushed me to my limit and hurt my feeling with their harsh word. I had a few who called me terrorist and wanted me to start a fight. But there was one event that broke me and I fell to pieces. I was driving in downtown Moncton. While I was waiting for some client to hop in my cab, a man started yelling to them, "Don't get in his cab. He's a foreigner. He's a terrorist." I can still see the embarrassed expression on those clients' face. They feel so ashamed that this was actually happening here in Moncton. They probably wish that the ground could have opened up and swallowed them so that they could hide and not have to explain or witness what had just happened. The man started yelling at me. He was running in a frantic way, in a lunatic way. He said, "Get out of here. You are not welcome." I was like, "What? Get out of here. You are not welcome." Those 8 words were sharper than a knife, were stronger than a bullet, and they usually don't get broken so easy. But those 8 words broke my dream, my heart, my word, all I had built. I thought to myself, I'm doing this for my country, for my community, for my city, for diversity and inclusion. But I guess I'm just a cab driver, like everyone assumed cabby are. It took me a while to pull myself together. I had lost my motivation, my drive. I got depressed, and I stopped working for a few days. But one day, I pulled my broken pieces together, and I said, I have to be myself. That guy's opinion is not going to be my reality. I know my worth. I know I am valuable. I know how strong Ali Tarnishi is. So I injected myself with a dose of my inspiration. I knew that rejection is sometimes God's protection to guide us in the right direction. So I swallowed my pride and got back behind the wheel. I came back stronger than before. I decided to change the company name from Alibaba Cab to All Star Cab Services. I changed the design of the roof sign and I redecorated the outside of the van. I got ads from other businesses to post on my fleet advertising site. I became creative with marketing idea. I had a lot of fun on my Facebook business page. I went to every hotel in the city and I gave them each a form so that the agent could fill out every time they called me. And when they reach 10 calls, I will give them a free pizza. That's why I get more businesses. Win-win for me and for them. I ordered a karaoke machine that allowed more wireless microphone in the taxi for people to sing karaoke in the cab. I got more contract with different schools and immigration organizations. My name was everywhere. I created a website where tourists could book their cab ahead of time from abroad. I was gifted since I could connect with people and knew how to close deals with offering only the best to my client. With that mindset, I grow as an entrepreneur who was focused on result. So I did really good in business. I didn't let rejection really become our new redirection. We just have to believe in the process and never give up. Because if we give up on the process, guess what? We give up on the result. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Ali. It's a really great book. I'm a bit biased because I got to edit it, but it's every chapter has something beautiful and interesting to offer, and Ali really pours his heart out in some places, and he shows what we can accomplish even in the worst of places. So Ali, how can we get a copy of your book?
Oh yes, that's the good part. That's so to get a copy of my book, actually, you can go to my website www.aliitarnishi.com, and you can order it from there. Or if you are locally here and you want a copy, just let me know, and I can deliver it. Also, it is at Chapters Moncton. It's sold there at the bookstore at Chapters. And I'm looking to put it on Amazon as well this week, so it will be available for all people all over the world to buy it on Amazon. And it is also, if you want the ebook, it's on aliitarnishi.com, and locally I can deliver it. So just a cab drive.
Lucky you can deliver it. That was beautiful. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you. You were all so wonderful. It was such a pleasure to have you here tonight. And I hope you'll all come back either in person or digitally. Hopefully I'll be able to keep the digital thing going and the in-person when we're out of COVID.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much.
I love that in person. It was so much fun to be there with music and food and people live, hug, talk. Now, if you are live, the mask is there. Nobody's no. We all are aliens.
Feels that way.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you very much, Kyla, for putting this.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Kyla.
My pleasure. And thanks for helping with the technical issues, Ali. I appreciate it.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I'm glad I get to meet all these beautiful souls, and we already.
Sweet you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everybody. It was really fun.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Nice to meet you all.
Yes, thank you. It was great connecting with everybody. Thank you.
Thank you
very much. Have a good one. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye.
Bye.